Thanks for coming. Welcome to Herbs 101. So Beth is actually a patient of mine, and I was just always amazed by how self-sufficient she was. And so I was like, you know what, you need to teach a class. And I was like, why don't you teach one here? So this is her first class. This is Herbs 101, and if you guys like it and it goes really well, then we can do an Herbs 102. All right?
Keep pushing it, so.
What's that?
I said, yeah, we can keep pushing it,
Yeah,
keep going.
absolutely.
There's lots
All
of
right. So warm welcome for Beth Hixon.
So this is fun. Like he said, we were talking and kind of was learning all the things I did. So I like many of you, I've been dibble dabbling in herbs and flowers and plants for a really long time, and I love to grow them and I love to learn about them, and this is the time of the year we want to get out there and we want to start digging. So this is a good time of the year to do this. I guess my first love with herbs, I mean, whatever. I love to smell them. I love to eat them. They're beautiful, all those things. But the one thing that really got me into, how does this work? How does this work? My sister did one of those Arbonne parties. Have you been to Arbonne? Okay, and they're like, ooh, everything's all like natural and whatever. And I'm like, well, good grief, look what's in the ingredients. Can I make that? So that started me on a journey of getting the herbal recipes for, making your own products. And then I started learning about that. I'm like, that's so cool. So we lived in Painesville for a long time in a small postage-sized lot, and I grew as much as I could on there. My mom grew flowers, my grandpa grew flowers, my great-grandmother grew flowers, and so I always grew flowers, and then it was like you learned about herbs and all that they could do, so you just kind of added on to it. Like he said, it was self-sufficiency that really kind of got me into this, and I think most of you are all here thinking, you know what, we want to do something for our own health and not be dependent on the system. I'm kind of thinking we're all kind of on that, and like, what can we do? And so growing herbs is one way that I think of, like, how can I not be always dependent? What can I do on my own? And this, when we need it, it's there for those times, but what else can I do on my own? Another thing I thought about was, like, I also love history, and I'm like, how did they do it back then? What did they use? What did they do? And just the beauty of an herb garden, an English country garden, and all those things drew me to herbs. So I started mostly by cooking with them. I learned about pesto. I'm like, this is great. I need more basil in my life. And then I started learning about how to make beauty products and hair rinses and things like that, and that was fun. And then it led me into building my own apothecary. And my husband jokes, he'd come home and be like, what are you concocting now in here? All these things brewing in the kitchen. So that's kind of where I started. So we know a lot of the benefits of herbs, and like I was telling you, that this is a little piece of my garden now, but my goal was self-sufficiency. How much can I grow on my own? How much can I do? And all of you, I think, can agree that there's so many benefits to herbs. Most of them are relatively easy to grow. There's a few tricky ones out there, but most of them are really easy to grow. You can save your money by growing them on your own. You think about, I worked at, my kids all worked at the farm market for a while, and you get this little pack for $1, and you're like, oh my goodness, when you can grow your own plant, it just keeps giving back to you over and over and over again. So you save so much money by growing your own herb. You pick your own, even here when you dry them, they just taste, you go to the grocery store and you get those little weenie packets, they don't really taste or smell like anything. But if you were to go over here and smell any of my herbs, you're gonna smell that freshness. So growing your own, they're just so fresh. Besides the beauty and the fragrance that they bring to your garden. That's kind of where I started with herbs. It was just the beauty, the fragrance of them, just going through and literally smelling the roses. They're flavorful, they're medicinal, they aid in pest control. Somebody was saying how they only did vegetables. I do a lot of combinations with my plants and herbs and vegetables for pest control. So that's another great way to use herbs in your garden. And besides the fact that it draws in bees and other good pollinators. It's amazing what insects will be drawn to your garden when you bury that plant. Now I'm in front of you, I can't even think of the name of one, but besides the bees, it'll draw in like different ones that will actually attack the bad bugs. So that's why also I like to grow some mixed different herbs. A favorite companion is dill with your cabbage. Dill and is supposed to keep back cabbage moths, and also dill, what else did I put it by? Now I'm just blanking. Oh my goodness, I blinked. But basil with your tomatoes. And so there's so many different combinations. A lot of times they'll say thyme is great in your garden. Just all of those things to bring in the great insects. So there's so many great benefits to growing herbs on your own. So besides being self-sufficient and growing your own, there's a beauty to it. And I think food is medicine. And so a lot of you are here and you know that. So what we grow is so important, and what our soil is like is important to our own health. And so here, all of this is food. It's basically free, and it's a free medicine for us. It also improves the health of both the soil and the plants. So those are some of the benefits to growing your own herbs. And what I thought we would do is kind of dig into a little bit of what you want to do with herbs and what is your dream. Oh, here's some just pretty ones. So echinacea is another one that I only grew just for the flower. And there's also a medicinal benefit to it. But I guess I've always used other things besides echinacea for the same benefit. But I think they're just so beautiful and pretty. We have some yarrow over here. And yarrow works great for stopping bleeding. I've literally been right by that yarrow, clipped my fingers with the clippers, took some yarrow, chopped it all up, put it on, held it on there for a while, and it stops the bleeding. It was used during war times a long, long time ago. So, yarrow is both beautiful, it dries well. There's so many other medicinal benefits to that too. This is a mullein that just has kind of popped up, and that one's a fun one, and it will seed itself. So there's common herbs that we a lot know about, and maybe some ones that aren't so common that might pop around in your yard. So I just love walking around, and these are some wild roses that grow around, but having that basket, kind of having that freedom. So I thought we'd take a while, and like a lot of you have already told me things that you do, but what would be your dream if there was no restrictions? And that's where I always start. If I could have my garden any way I wanted it, what would it be?
I take a huge greenhouse.
Yeah, so I always start with a big dream. Go beyond anything and just jot it down. And I find myself jotting that down often. And sometimes it changes, and sometimes I go back to that. I find, boy, I'm putting the same thing down over and over again. So I gave you a handout where you can jot that down now. You can take this home and think about it as we're talking and things pop in your head. Just take some time to think about, what do I want to do? What's my dream? If I had all the money, space, and everything access to me, what would I do? And I always thought of like fields of lavender, and just kind of different things that made you happy. So think about what is your, and then maybe what is your goal? What do you want to accomplish with herbs? Some of you already have told me some things that you do with them, but you're here for a reason, maybe to be inspired. And I was going to say before, sometimes like I'll listen to podcasts or read a book, or you listen to talk and you're like, I've heard that before, but boy, I needed that again. Yeah, that's inspiring me. So I might tell you something that you already know, but hopefully it gets you out there to like regenerate that spirit to go out there and do it. Or maybe you've never heard about it before and it gets you thinking, and you'll say, man, I want to do some more research on that. So either way, that's my goal here today, is to get you thinking, boy, I do that and I want to do more of that, or I don't know what she's talking about. I've never tried this, but I want to get out there and I want to do that. So that's what we're thinking about, our dream. So what's your goal or your purpose? And I'm kind of focusing on growing herbs, how to grow them, and then we're going to focus on preserving them. So we dream big. There's no limits. What are your goals? What are the things that you want to accomplish? And so some things I think about considering would be your space, your time. We all are limited on space and time, maybe budget. That kind of limits a lot of us on some things too. So once we get that big dream and you think about it, then I go down to the nitty gritty and I say, okay, well, let's look at it practically. Let's be a little bit realistic. So I always wanted a nice big garden like this, and now I have it, so it's kind of exciting. I'm getting there, right? So this was my dream, and it took us a long time, and we're finally getting there. We're working towards it, but we had a little tiny lot. So we had to work with that first of all, and I had to think about a few things. So some things we want to consider is our time, the space, your budget. How much sun do you have? Do you have full sun? Do you have full shade, part? What kind of soil do you have? All those things we need to consider when we are actually getting to the nitty-gritty of our garden. So thinking about your yard and what you have right now, where will you plant herbs in your garden? Maybe you just have a patio and you're just going to put them in pots. Those work wonderful too. You can just have a whole patio of herbs. Think about what kind of layout would you like. So this is our old house in Painesville, and we had this tiny little backyard, and I just jammed it packed. Okay, I just put everything in there I could. And it was shady, but I had little bits of sun. So I have some oregano up here in the front, but I was like, I'm gonna grow as much as I can. Who needs grass? We don't need grass, we just need plants. So that was kind of my philosophy then. So you're thinking about in your yard, where are you gonna plant? What kind of sun and soil do you have? What's my layout gonna be? Maybe you want a fancy pottage or garden. Maybe I just tuck things in everywhere they can go. I put them in little places here and there. You know, sometimes you want a formal layout, sometimes you just kind of stick them where you can. So some other things we need to think about is, what are you gonna plant? What are the things that inspire you? What do you want to do with those herbs will help you decide what you will plant. Do you like to eat them? Do you want to grow them medicinally? Do you want just to have beauty and fragrance? So think about those things when you're trying to decide what kind of plant that you would want. Most people here, do we all know the difference between annual and perennial plants? Okay, so an annual we know will come after the frost gone. Perennials will come back. So kind of think about that. Does it need sun or shade? Consider how much space it will take. Mint, you know, will take over, so keep it contained. But I will plant mint around my apple trees because it helps with pest control. So you do a little permaculture that way where it helps mulch it. So it works as a mulch, and then also, I don't care if it spreads around the apple tree. We'll just mow it down. If it walks too far, I'll dig it up. It doesn't matter. Chives also are really great around fruit trees. They help with pest control. And again, you have that permacultural effect of mulching. Comfrey is another one that's really great for mulching and for skin products. So you can use so many different things with comfrey. So that's another different way that you can use herbs and decide where to plant them. Why put them into a little box? Let them be out and help other plants too. I was thinking about lavender. We were talking about this with some people. At our old house, we had this brick sidewalk, and you know, when you put the bricks down, it's really sandy. So it was perfect for lavender. And I had these huge lavender plants. I would get baskets and baskets of lavender. And we moved to Thompson, which is clay, and lavender does not like clay. And so I had to figure out how to make lavender grow. So you dig the hole, and you put some limestone and turkey grit in there, and then fill it up with just do like a potting soil. And now I'm getting my lavender to finally grow in the clay. So something I've had to learn. Same thing like rosemary, doesn't really like wet feet very much. So so kind of think about that plant, and deciding where you're going to plant it depends on your soil. Grow what you will use. So I kind of chuckle. I think I might say this later too. My mom likes to just grow them, but then she's like, I don't know what to do with it. Here, take it. So she just grows it just to grow it, and then she doesn't know what to do with the herb. And I don't know if any of you are like that too. I just grow them. I don't know what to do with them. She feeds them to the chickens, but that's another thing you can do, is feed them to the chickens. So kind of grow what you will use. Is there a tea that you like to drink, or maybe a supplement that you like to buy often? So there might be an herb for that you can grow and use on your own. One other thing I think is plant them where you can get to them easy. You don't want to plant if I want to pick basil for supper, for that tomato that's so good, I don't want to go all the way across the yard. So, I have a spot, this is right behind our house, and then I have another spot right over here. So the quick herbs I can just go out and grab. But now the basil that I want to grow for my pesto goes in the garden by the tomatoes, so that I can do a big, huge harvest of that. So kind of think about that. So plant the ones that you want to use very often close by. And I just say start small, keep planting, keep experimenting, see what will happen. Another thing, so talking about annuals and perennials. So something else I learned, so this is kind of a fun thing, you can do some succession planting with basil, cilantro, and dill. What I always had this thing way back, I thought cilantro was a heat-loving plant because, it was in Mexican food, right? But that's what I used to think. It is not. It's a cool weather herb. And so you want to grow it now, and what I learned is if I grow it now and let it go to seed, then I would get another second batch in the fall. So sometimes I let it go to seed so it gives me more later, and sometimes I purposely plant later. Dill does the same thing. And I'll do that with basil too, just maybe keep planting a little bit of basil. I usually cheat and buy buy one plant in May because I need one. I need a big basil plant early. But I'll start some by seed and then just keep planting them for a while. So that's another thing you can succession plant. And there's so many fun ones that will just keep going back on their own, like borage and calendula, and they'll just keep, spreading the seeds and bringing you more and more. So that's kind of a fun way.
Do you know anything about horseradish?
I have some horseradish. What do you want to, it's,
Well, I planted some last year, but I didn't dig it up.
that's okay.
And it's gonna come back.
Mm-hmm.
Is it real? After I did that, somebody said to me, you needed to dig that up or you're gonna be covered up.
It does spread, but I think even if you dig it up, there's still a bit of the root left in the ground and it's going to spread anyway. So just put it in a place that you don't mind it spreading.
Ooh.
And if you don't want it to spread, then you're going to have to really get in there and dig it out. Because I've heard of even,
I
yeah.
dug mine up, it wasn't that bad.
Yeah.
The little stragglers kept showing up,
That-
I just showed, they get
Yeah.
big chunks of root.
Yeah.
That's where it comes from.
That's what I'm saying. Even if you leave it there,
If you left it 10 years, you'd probably hurt. But
right. They're little ones, yeah. I guess I had big horseradish last year. In fact, I was like, who wants horseradish? I had a lot of horseradish. Yeah. All right. So are we getting some good stuff here? Yeah. I jotted some things down. It seems like you guys kind of know what you're doing about starting by seed or getting the plant. I think if you've started seeds, go for the hard ones. Like lavender, I think is kind of tricky to start by seed. Has anybody tried lavender by seed?
Yeah,
Yeah, it happens. It takes a while. It's kind of
it
tricky.
didn't happen.
Yeah, I have some going right now and I see it just peeking up, but it's easier just to take them like propagating, like rosemary too, you just cut here. The same thing like with these, and then you'll just strip it and just stick it in the soil. So lavender, rosemary, thyme, sage, just take a cutting and then just stick it in the soil and you can propagate it that way. Like,
Sage, you can do it.
yeah.
I got some pineapple sage last year.
Oh,
Oh, yeah. So good.
so
I
good.
have some of that
It's
too.
so good. It's so
The
good.
smell is really nice.
Yeah. I use it on like, chicken.
Ooh,
Like super.
pineapple sage. I don't know that I tried pineapple sage
I
yet.
just came across it at this little
Nursery.
nursery.
See, those are the best ones when they have the unusual ones, and you're like, ooh, I've never tried you. I have to try you. Yes. I have some like apple mint and strawberry mint that I've tried, and those are like the strawberry mint makes a really good syrup, like a kind of like a really yummy syrup too. So yeah, I'm like, ooh, I have to try you. So the other thing I was thinking of too, maybe we'll just go even beyond. I mean, you can grow them, but I like to forage for what we can find too. So like the rose hips, I have woods and we have the pasture and the wild roses, and then you wait till it frosts and then you can collect the rose hips. You can do it if you have roses in your garden, as long as you don't spray them. Collect the rose hips, and now there's so much you can do for rose hips, and we'll talk about that later. Dandelion. So I live in Thompson. Nobody cares if there's dandelions growing in your yard, and it's beautiful. The whole grass is just covered with yellow flowers, and you can collect those, and I make tea with that or a syrup with that. You use the leaves obviously, and you can make all that, and then I've gotten to collecting dandelion root and roasting it, and that's super good too. So those are fun. Plantain that just grows in the grass, there's so much you can do with that. Yeah, you guys are all nice, so you guys know these ones, yeah. So lots of fun things you can just forage. Jewelweed, of course, comfrey, chickweed, lots of fun things. All right, so maybe you've already growing. Let's talk about some ways to use these herbs. Well, I'll go to that in just a second. So I like to freeze them. One way I like to freeze them is to take like cilantro. I'll chop it up real fine, put it in an ice cube tray, cover it up with water, pop out those ice cube trays. And we just did this tonight. We made rice. Then I can just throw those ice cube trays in with the rice, and you have cilantro rice, okay? You can do that with any herb, basically. You can, remove it that way. Sometimes I like to, like chives. I don't necessarily always like to put in ice cube trays because when I melt it, it's all that watery. So I actually like just to snip the chives and just throw them in a bag and throw them in the freezer, and that works perfect. I do the same thing with basil too. It's only good for like cooking things, but then you can just snip it and it smells so fresh. So that's another fun way. So you can freeze them. Go ahead.
Put them in olive oil.
As I say, you can put them in olive oil.
Those are ice cream trays. That's how I do my basil.
Yeah, and you can do it that way. You can do butters. You can, same thing, soften a butter, throw it in the butter, get one of those little cookie scoops, put it on a tray, freeze them, pop it in your bag, chive butter. So now you put that on your corn or whatever in the middle of the winter. It's so good. My favorite way to freeze is pestos. I love pestos. There's a recipe at the end for pesto, but I like to mix and match. So like an arugula basil pesto is so good. Arugula mint pesto is really good. Tastes good on a pasta. I put this here because it's you know what those are?
What? Snipes.
She's close. Scapes. Garlic scapes. So the curlicues are on the garlic. I consider garlic an herb. I know it's kind of technically not, but garlic has so many health benefits. I put it in the herb category. So those are the garlic scapes. They come in about middle of June, and I chop those all up and make a pesto out of it, and it's super good on a steak or on your pizza. So good. Or sometimes you can just freeze the scapes whole too. But garlic scape pesto is another one. You can make cilantro pesto. I made a thyme pesto. You know, this is so many things you can do with the pestos. Dandelion pesto. So that's another fun way to freeze them. We were talking before about drying, and people were talking about a dehydrator. I do some, like I'll do basil in a dehydrator, but I pretty much am like old fashioned, just dry them kind of a person. So these are all, like sometimes I'll just take lavender, stick them in a basket like this and let them dry like that. Sometimes I'll just do that. Sometimes, so this is calendula. It's so beautiful and pretty. I let it go to seed this year, so hopefully I'll get lots of them. And I'll just lay them on like a screen and just let them dry that way, and then take the petals off, and then you have calendula, which you can put in a soup. It's high in vitamin C, and you can make oils out of them and vinegars out of them. We're going to talk about that in a little bit too. I just like to hang them on a twine, hang them upside down, let them dry. You know, a pretty little thing of lavender hanging around is always nice. Just make sure you label them. When they're all green and dry, they look the same. So make sure you label them. Not that I've ever had that happen to me before. So then when you're done, I like to store them in jars. I make sure I label them, use them cooking teas. You can make tinctures out of them once they're dry. So there's lots of fun things you can do with them. And that's the thing, like I wasn't sure where we were gonna go with this class. Like if we were talking beginner, like 101, or, because then when you're talking about teas, that's a whole other class, you know? Blending teas is so much fun. Tincture is doing tincture blends. That's a whole other thing there too. So there's a whole lot we could go into. Maybe we can go back to it. I also like to make like little sachets with them, put lavender in drawers or little dry things. Or floor, I like to do arrangements. So the other thing is, like sometimes this one's a really old one, I'll just make wreaths, and then this is in the kitchen and it looks bad because I'll just pull sage off of it. And so you can combine your herbs in your kitchen and just have a little wreath hanging in your kitchen, and as you're cooking, just pull pieces off of it. So that's kind of another fun way. Another thing I'd love to do is to make oils and vinegars. Nasturtiums make a really pretty vinegar, and they're so, do you just eat them from the garden? Anybody do that? So good. They're like real peppery. Grab a green bean and grab a nasturtium and just munch away in the garden. Yeah, so there's lots of ways you can make oils and vinegars, and uses for them. So basically, I'm going to give you the short version. Here's some calendula already going, and I actually am going to do one a little bit of a combination. Since these are, so if you're making one out of fresh herbs, you want to make sure that they dry a little bit. You don't want to put wet herbs in with the oil because it'll spoil, it'll get moldy. So it works well with dry, or if you're going to use a fresh herb, just let it sit out for a day or make sure it's really, really dry. For a fresh herb, I'll fill the jar all the way to the tippy top. But for a dry herb, I'm just going to fill it up part way. And I actually noticed, I'm spilling this everywhere, that I needed to make some more. I was looking at home and I'm out of chamomile. And I like to do a mixture of calendula and chamomile for one of my salves. So I'm going to combine them now. Sometimes I'll make my oil separate and combine it later. Sometimes I'll make a combination. And actually this one's really nice if you throw a little bit of lavender in it too. So, well, that'll make a big mess. This is some almond oil. And so I'm just gonna make sure that I cover it all up. And you want it just to cover a little bit. I didn't fill all the way up. I could probably, and if it's still popping up, just make sure I cover that up all the way. Once I cover it all up, and I can do this for so many different things. Put a lid on it, put it on my window, and let it steep in the sun for 4 to 6 weeks. Then I'll strain it out and I have a lovely oil that I can use. So you can use this for culinary purposes. One of my favorite things to do is to actually take chives. I have lots of chives, lots and lots of chives. So I literally just chop off all the little flowers and I'll get a big gallon jar, fill that up with my chive flowers, put that olive oil on top, and it just makes it really lovely for your eggs. Same thing, I'll make an herb mixture. Take all your favorite herbs, mix them all up, and do an oil that way. You can do the same thing for vinegars. Make a flavored vinegar, cook it up, make it for your salads. For medicinal purposes, one of my favorite ways to do vinegars is to make oxymels. So basically what you're going to do is you're going to take your herb and you're going to put in apple cider vinegar. One of the ones I did, the two that we like are a thyme oxymel. And what I found was the thyme oxymel actually, so an oxymel is when you take the apple cider vinegar and you infuse it with an oil, you're going to strain it and add honey. Okay, so basically it's like a fire cider. So if you make a fire cider is an oxymel.
So make a throat spray like that?
Yeah, so the thyme oxymel, like thyme is really good for your bronchioles. So the one way that we experienced was like right after, COVID had gone through and they were starting school again, and I just started teaching. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna make all the things, we're gonna be prepared. We are gonna kick this thing in the butt, okay? So I made this thyme oxymel. Well, was teaching for a little while, came home like, man, I have a sinus infection, something's going on. Took that thyme oxymel every 2 hours. It didn't taste great, but after one day I was fine. And then the next day I was like, I feel great. And then the boys went down and I was like, oops, I don't think it was a sinus infection. So, so thyme oxymel, I combined it with thyme, red clover, and sage. So red clover is also good for fighting flu. Sage is good for sore throats. So that's one way that you can use your vinegar. Fire cider is another way. So your horseradish, you take garlic, onion, horseradish, cayenne pepper, ginger, lemon. Sometimes I throw elderberry in there. Yeah, you could do clove. I don't usually do clove. Sometimes I'll throw like red clover in there. So yeah, there's different variations. So you let that all steep for about 4 to 6 months, or not months, weeks. Strain it out, add your honey in it, and then you take a swig of that. I'll take that almost every day. A swig of fire cider every day. So that's a different way to use some vinegars.
Shelf life on that?
What?
Shelf life on that?
Forever, actually. If it doesn't last long, but once it's in there, it'll last for a long time. Yeah, I've had it for over like a year.
I've done
Once
some.
you add the honey, it's an extra preservative.
Yeah.
I've just done some regular herb oils and all that, but you read up on them and they're like good for 6 months and throw them out, and I'm like, why?
Yeah.
They don't smell rancid.
If it doesn't smell bad, there's nothing moldy in it. Yeah. Yeah.
Tinctures, those don't.
Yeah, the tinctures have the alcohol in there. But so another thing is like sometimes I'll kind of like I ran out of my vodka and I wanted to make a hawthorn tincture, so I actually infused that in apple cider vinegar. So apple cider vinegar can also kind of work as a tincture in a sense too, if you don't want to use the alcohol, because that gets expensive too, that vodka. Yeah. And then another way I use the oils are for salves. So we were talking about that before. I have like this healing salve here, which is calendula, chamomile, and plantain. So basically, whatever combination you want, you need a cup of oil and a quarter cup of grated beeswax. You're gonna melt that beeswax down, and you can pour it into your tins, and you'll have a lovely salve that way. The other thing I use oils for are for beauty products. We were talking about this before. I take those rose hips and I put it in some, is it jojoba or jojoba? Everyone's like, what is it? I don't even know. Jojoba, yeah, jojoba. It's so funny, I always hear people go, how do you say this? And I'm like, I don't even know anymore. Okay, jojoba. Put those rose hips in there, and I've been letting this sit like this for a long time, and then I'll just pour it into a little bottle with a squeezer on top and put this on every morning. I love that. And we were just talking about how we've discovered castor oil, and we'll put castor oil in there too now.
Where do you get it? I've been looking for it, like Walmart doesn't have any.
Amazon.
Amazon.
Or like a health food store.
Yeah.
There's that one in Painesville, they had it there.
Jojoba oil?
Yeah.
Heartland.
Oh, Heartland, yeah.
They have good stuff there.
Yeah, that's why I used to get my oils there, and then I needed more, so I started ordering. I got it from like Brambleberry.
Bulk apothecary? Bulk apothecary you can order like by the gallons.
And I did Brambleberry, but like I'm not really happy with Brambleberry right now, so I might switch over to somebody else, because
Yeah, bulk apothecary.
but yeah, there's that one. I know probably some people are saying how they just buy bulk herbs instead of growing their own, like mountain rose herbs is a good one if you want to buy your bulk herbs.
Tell me one more time what you put in this rose.
So I just put rose hips and jojoba oil.
Okay.
Let it sit for a while. And like I said, actually this has probably been sitting for a couple months now. I just take out what I need. I like to make my,
You said about hawthorn.
yes.
Do you have a hawthorn?
I have a hawthorn tree, but it has not bloomed yet. So I'm hoping this year it will. So I've ordered mine from Mountain Rose, my hawthorn berries.
Okay.
But I have a tree, and I'm looking at it this year going, are you gonna do it for me this year?
What's the benefit of hawthorn?
It's good for your heart. It's your heart. It's a red that, like a lot of times they say anything that's red is you think of your heart. So hawthorn is supposed to like strengthen your heart, open up, yeah.
So you were making an oil with it?
I put in apple cider vinegar. I made a tincture of it, and I ran out of my tincture, so I was infusing apple cider vinegar to kind of use it like to take it as apple cider vinegar, so like a tincture basically, but made with apple cider vinegar.
Like, how do you know how much to take?
Um,
You do something like that.
See, well, hawthorn's pretty mellow, so it's not. Again, that's where I go to the books. They'll give the recommended tincture things. So a lot of times they'll say 1 to 2 teaspoons. I mean, not tablespoons. Yeah, you know, like they'll say generally 1 to 2 teaspoons, like 1 to 3 times a day, depending on what you're using it, like how bad. The other thing is when you're talking about herbs used this way, like, so you guys have supplements and it's like more concentrated. So it happens fast. So like when you use herbs this way, it takes longer for it to work, you know, but it just takes a little bit longer. But so a tincture basically is a way to preserve herbs where I'll take a fresh or dried herb. So the folk method is kind of the same way I did the oil. I'm gonna put the dried in there and I'm gonna cover it with a vodka, a 90 proof. Yeah.
Like 6 to 8 weeks.
Yes, and let it sit there. And sometimes people, again, you can let it sit there for a year or two, whatever. But at least 6 to 8 weeks, and then you can strain it out. Now there's like all these fancy formulas, but basically you can just, you know, fill up part way, and then you can use fresh too. But then you're going to need to like let it make sure it's dry. The moisture will change it. So then we'll strain it, and now I have tinctures in here. So I have like a sage tincture, so that's good for like sore throats. It's also good for hot flashes. Red clover, yeah.
I'm not having a hot flash.
It's just, thank you. Then we can just say it's just hot. So red clover also is phytoestrogenic, and it's also good for cough. It's antispasmodic. I actually finally wrote on the back because my husband's going, what are all these things in the cupboard and what do you do with them? So I started writing on the back. Dandelion tincture, take this after you eat for digestion. And lemon balm is like my new favorite friend. I love lemon balm. It just is a calming herb. I like lemon
Do
balm.
you grow any wild jam or chaseberry?
I don't. I bought chaseberry.
Okay.
I don't.
I got really big into wild jam salve lately, and it's amazing for hot flashes and regulating your female hormones, menopause, perimenopause. I've got 2 teenage girls who get their monthly, and I've been using it for PMS, and it's like
Yeah.
puts
use
them
it for
on,
men,
and
too.
it's like, you flip a switch, and it's like, oh, you're normal again, okay.
Yeah, they just balance you
Yeah.
no matter which way. If you're over or under, it
Yep.
puts you in a balance.
Yep.
And I think that's what they said about red clover, is that whether your estrogen's high or low, it just puts you even.
Correct.
So that's what's kind of fun about red clover. So like that, you hit a new phase of life and you start investigating herbs a different way.
Literally.
That is so true.
Yeah, I mean, but then I wish I knew that when I was a teenager, or like with my daughter, you know, that it can help them with all these things that you struggle with. We don't have to be suffering all the time. So, another fun thing, like once I make my oils, I'll make soaps out of them too. We do have goats, and so I can make goat milk soap, and that's a lot of fun. So another fun thing is hair rinses. And so you can take that vinegar again, and they have what's called a Queen of Hungary water that supposedly was the Queen of Sheba used, and it's calendula and lavender, and I'm trying to think, lemon balm, rose petals, rosemary. I'm trying to think what else. You could probably vary it too, because every herb has something different. Same thing, you strain that, you let that sit for 4 to 6 weeks, strain it, but then take that vinegar and mix it half with water. You don't want to put it straight on your hair. Go half and half, and that makes a lovely hair rinse or a facial toner. So, apple cider vinegar is for sunburns too. So mix it with lavender, and that helps with sunburns. So, and then also, sometimes I'll just make a tea out of the herb and use that as a hair rinse. And it makes your hair just smell really lovely and kind of get all the gunk out of your hair. What did we say? Are we still in dried herbs? I've been like talking for so long, I don't remember where we are. Oh, we were talking about oils and vinegars. Okay. All right. Then, I would just have another pretty picture of, another thing I really like to do with herbs is make syrups. And so we were talking about this before. Lavender syrup is so good. Like you can make your own soda. So I make a lavender syrup and put it in with sparkling water. So good. Mint syrup and put it in, you know, you could do a syrup or in coffee, or I made a chocolate mint syrup for like desserts, basically. Lemon verbena makes her a great one. So when our daughter got married, we did like a soda bar, and we made like all these herbal syrups, and then like had all the mixes, and you could take like blackberry syrup and mint syrup or whatever and mix it all up. So you can make them for cocktails or mocktails. You could add it to your tea for extra flavor. Then there's like for medicine, elderberry syrup. That's super good. Or horehound syrup, which isn't so good, but it works. I had some. The one thing I learned about horehound is if you put it in one of these things and you keep it in your purse, it bubbles up really big and kind of ferments. So keep horehound in the refrigerator if you do that. And then another way I like to preserve them is in salts. So I just take them either dried or fresh, chop them up real fine. If they're fresh, mix them with your salt, lay them on a cookie sheet, let it dry for a while, and then I just use it for cooking. Same thing for like a sugar. The only thing I found is that, yes, you can make scrubs out of them. I did like a mint sugar, I thought, ooh, I'll put it in my coffee. Then I had like mint floating in my coffee. It wasn't like as great as I thought it was gonna be. So you live and you learn, you try some different things. So that's another way that you can preserve them. Another fun thing for mint, you can make your own mint chocolate chip ice cream. I mean, it's like lots of fun too, so you can kind of steep it in your milk and make your own mint chocolate chip ice cream. Another fun thing with elderberries is I'll take the elder flowers and you can kind of ferment those and make a elderflower fizz. So basically you take the elderflowers, put it in water, add some honey, let it sit and ferment for a while, and it starts getting fizzy. You bottle that up. It borders on probably some alcohol level, but it's really just kind of a fizzy drink. So that's something else fun that you can just do with elderflowers, and it's kind of free. I mean, we have bees, so we have honey, and it's kind of free. So you can use them in ferments, and you can use them for all kinds of fun drinks that way. Anything else I was thinking of? Mead. You can make mead too. Does anybody make mead? I was wondering if you made mead. You seem like you experimented with different things. Yeah. We keep talking about making dandelion mead. So maybe one day we'll do that. But dandelion. But
Yeah, we've made it.
Yeah. Have you made it? Yeah. It's on our list. So especially when all the dandelions are in, that's supposed to be a big thing is dandelion mead. But
Lots of different kinds. All different types of yeast and stuff. It's a lot of work.
yeah, that's I think why we haven't done it yet. I'm like, oh, I'll just put the one in the water and it sits on the counter and ferments and it works. So yeah. All right. I feel like I had a lot that we said, and you guys had a lot of good inputs. Are there any questions or other ideas or things that you guys have? Because it's fun to learn from each other.
These elderberries, can you talk about them a little bit more? How big are they going to grow? How many berries? Can you just eat them like that, or?
Okay, so elderberries grow pretty large. Like mine are pretty big. They can grow, yeah, they grow really large. But like I said, you can't trim them down, which is why we now have elderberry cuttings. They are going to get flowers first, probably June-ish. I'm trying to think of when I pick the flowers. And they say to pick them on a sunny day because that's where all the yeast is in, where you can make your elderflower fizz. You can also infuse elderflowers in oils, and it's like really great for anti-aging, and there's a lot of good health benefits for your skin. Now the berries will usually come around in August, and so what you get is like an umbel, I guess you'd call it. So it's like a stick and like tons of little itty bitty tiny berries on it. You cannot eat them raw. You always have to cook elderberries. They will just pretty much give you a bad stomach ache. So don't ever eat elderberries raw. You always have to have them cooked. So yes, you can do pies, you can do jams, you could do wines, you could infuse them in apple cider vinegar again. I did a fermented elderberry honey. So you just took the elderberries, filled a jar of honey, tipped it upside down a couple times, and that's a great medicine too, great for your tea. Yeah, elderberry infused honey.
Should be dry when they go in honey?
No. I mean, they're pretty dry when I take them off. One thing to take them off, because there's so many itty bitty tiny ones, I stick them in the freezer and then they just kind of come off easier than
I
that.
take those bracts and throw them outside and they grew outside.
Oh, they,
See, your wife can clean them all.
yes.
Can't get any more. Then
Yeah. Now you have more. And like chickens like them too, so they say grow it by the chickens, and yeah. So they will get big, but you can cut it down and it will come back. So it's like, you can hardly kill it, I guess, once it's growing, but it comes in. Oh, I was gonna say that about a lot of herbs, and I think I skipped that part. There's so many herbs actually that I actually forgot that whole part about harvesting them. There are so many herbs that when you go to harvest them, and you harvest them, basically you want to harvest them in the morning after the dew's gone, but before the sun beats down on them. That's when they have their best flavor. And depending what you want with the herb is when you harvest them. Like oregano, I dry enough oregano for us to eat for the whole year. We have pizza every single Friday night. Oregano goes on there, oregano goes on everything, right? And so you, like how much do I grow? I don't know how much you can eat, but one oregano plant is gonna get pretty big. I have about 2 oregano plants, and that gives me through the whole year. I'll probably fill two or 3 quart-sized jars of oregano, but you want to pick it before it flowers. That's where the best flavor is. Same thing with thyme, but I cut that back, and I'm going to get another harvest again in the fall. Okay. Not as big, but I will get another one. So same thing, lavender. You're going to cut that back, and you're going to get another harvest of lavender flowers. Chives, these are tricky little guys. They give these nice little flowers, and I'm cutting them back furiously, because if I don't cut them back, then they get seeds, and then they sprinkle around, and now I've got chives everywhere. But then they get more chives. So I love and hate chives all at the same time. I like them.
What's the trick to make them go so big, like you have so many?
I left them alone, and they just did their thing. They really liked it, whereas I'm always like digging it up. So chives you can just like dig up and divide and spread around your yard. That's a fun way. Oregano you can divide that way too. Lemon balm.
I've thrown extra chives in a fire pit, and the next year they you burn them.
I'm telling. Okay, but you know what's funny is that's always the thing. Last year I turned around, there was a bug that got on my chives. What bug attacks onion family? It killed my chives around that. All the chives that were around that bird bath were gone by the end of the year.
I lost my chives last.
I have never, ever seen anything go after an onion plant.
Yeah, mine. I have one spot in my garden bed, but I just pop the flowers off before they seed.
I try to, but then
I take a cup of coffee out on the weekend, and I just pop.
Yeah.
Pop.
I try to, and I get like baskets of,
I keep my bunches this big.
yeah, yeah. You have to stay on top of it. But like I said, something got them, and I thought that was so
I've
weird.
never seen anything even,
Me
they
neither.
look the same every year.
Right,
It's like
and this
they've never
at the
been-
end of the year, so I'm kind of curious to see if they're going to come back. But so I have some coming up. If not, I'll just move some over there. But I thought that was really weird. What?
You think it was a bug though?
They were covered with little black.
Oh,
Did they have spots on them?
No, they were just like little black dots that were like bugs, and you could kind of squish them. I've never seen an onion plant get a bug. Onions keep bugs away.
Stink bugs.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah. Do what?
I said maybe they just traveled in with those stink bugs.
Yeah, I don't know. I've never ever seen anything like that. It was the mystery of the chives last year. So basically, a lot of herbs you can cut back, and they'll just keep. And basil, you want to keep pinching back. To keep.
Stinging nettles, do you know anything about them?
The funny thing is, I'm trying to find some on my property, and I can't.
I have a million.
Do you? Because I'm like, they're so good for you. But the funny thing is, I
I
keep
never harvested them, but people tell me, they go, oh my gosh, for your bone health. that's
Yes.
the best
what is
thing."
that?
singing nettle. I make it for a tea. It's supposed to be like a super great tea. It's like very nourishing, very like full of nutrients.
Spring, you could eat the roots and
Yeah,
stuff, too.
the people eat the I think they eat the leaves. You just have to cook it like you do.
You
steam it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it's kind of cool how like dandelions in the spring, because after the winter we're all feeling sluggish, and then the dandelion root comes and it cleans off our cleans out our system. So it's like God knew what he was doing, and he gave us everything at the right time.
These violets, can you, like the leaves and the flowers, I always eat those, but then the roots, are they good for anything?
I've never tried anything with the roots, and I actually haven't read anything about violet roots. You make me go, yeah, I haven't read anything about violet roots. But like,
That person who tried it isn't here.
yeah, that's why there's no book about violet roots. I know.
How did they find out?
Yes.
You die from that.
I know. I always think about like, who thought to like open this up and eat that? Yeah, I know.
They are toxic in excess, but both the leaves and flowers are safe and can be harvested and used.
Yeah, because violets are supposed to be like really lovely. Like borage. This is borage. And it's supposed to be good for your adrenals. And it makes these really pretty little tiny flowers. And they're so pretty. And you can put them like in ice cube trays, and it makes it really pretty. And the bees love borage. So I get tons of bees. And the leaves taste like cucumbers. They're kind of fuzzy though too, but like I like to actually just put them in my water. So I go around and in the summer I pick borage and lemon balm and put it all in my water, and that's another thing. Sometimes I don't even brew it. I just put it in my water, just let it sit in my water all day long, and then you just sip it. So borage is a fun one. I don't know what else. Oh, I've been messing with Thai basil now. That's been kind of a fun one to grow. The holy basil. Yeah. So I finally grew enough, to dry some. It makes a great tea, and that's supposed to be good for your anxieties and calming down.
It's a great sleepy time too.
Yeah.
So are you, when you're growing stuff, are you like separating it like with bricks and stuff, like, okay, I've got, this is what's in here, that's what's in there,
Sometimes.
all grow together?
Sometimes. I was gonna see if I can.
Not weed.
Yeah. Okay. So this is just chives. That's the one that got hit by that bug. I was going to go back. Nasturtiums grow among the vegetables because again, it's good for helping the plants, companion planting. I was going to go back to that one. Where'd it go? Sometimes. Where's that picture? Come on. Calendula. So calendula I put in a little brick thing because I wanted it to seed itself, and I wanted this to be the calendula plant patch. So that one I did put separate, but I also planted it with the tomatoes last year. And so what was kind of fun about that, because that's supposed to be like good, like keep the insects away, the tomatoes. So your tomatoes are done. I pulled all the tomato plants, and the calendula just went whoof like this. And it was like the end of October, and my garden was so pretty because I had all these beautiful calendula growing in there. So we'll see what happens this year. The one spot with the other chives, let's see, where did it go? It's coming up. This one. This has lemon balm, chives, oregano, lady's mantle, yarrow, mint. This one's like full of all kinds of things, and I just kind of go in there, and I like things not to be separate. I like them all to grow in together. Then I have the mulch, and it keeps that ground covered. So then it helps with weed control and moisture.
I was
So,
gonna ask you about that.
Yeah.
That's how to keep the weeds out.
yeah, so that's kind of how with that, I don't get weeds because there's no room for the weeds. So I like to grow everything tight like that. If you don't want weeds to go, then make sure you do mulch it with leaves or the wood chips. You have to wait before you put on your garden. Don't put them on fresh. Let them, sit for a while before you put them on. But wood chips work really well. But I like to put them in nice and tight. And I also like to use herbs as a mulch, as a ground cover, so that's mulching my other plants in my, then there's nasturtium. That's why I grow them around, because now they're mulching my vegetable plants. So that's keeping weed control down, and I'm getting nasturtiums. Does that make sense?
I was told to put alfalfa in my gardens too, as let that grow as the mulch.
As a cover crop?
Yeah.
Yeah, I try to cover crop, and it works. I mean, a lot of people do it because it puts the nutrients back in. So also in my garden, I also let clover grow, and that works kind of as a nice ground cover and adds nitrogen back in. So I kind of,
Slide is really good like that.
Yes, yeah. So I just
You didn't uproot it and flip it upside down.
right, just let it stay right there. Like that's. And sometimes I'll just chop the clover and just let it sit there, and it adds that. Yeah. So sometimes you can use these things as their own mulches too.
Green fertilizer.
Green fertilizer, yep. So that's the other thing, is it's improving the soil and it's benefiting you and the ground. Yeah, you guys have a lot of good ideas too, so. Did I answer all your questions about elderberry? I guess that's where we kind of started.
How far apart would you plant them?
Good. They get pretty expansive, so I would say,
10 feet.
at least 6 feet, yeah.
5 or 6.
Yeah, I was gonna say 5 or 6. But then they make a quick hedgerow. If you want a quick hedgerow, then stick those around, and it grows so fast. And I like now it's so sad because they're just sticks. But in the summertime, I love it because I have this whole hedgerow of elderberries right along my garden. So it makes you feel like you're kind of away somewhere, no one can see you.
They like it wet or dry?
They can handle a little bit of both, actually. Yeah, I was gonna say just not too wet. As I was gonna say, you want them I have to watch because we have clay, but they handle a little bit of wet.
I have a ditch.
It is pretty soggy where they are.
A ditch that we dug along the property, because I live in clay too.
Yes.
And if I planted them on the outside of the ditch, that would be a good spot, yeah.
Is it a by the road ditch, or is it like a ditch in the middle of the yard ditch?
It's a ditch from the road to the back property line.
Okay, so it's not like trucks aren't driving by it, or yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Grab some, I'm gonna.
I'm good.
Yeah, good. I know. Well, it was fun, getting ideas from you guys. Or any other questions or things that you guys have done, or did I answer something or not answer something? Did I inspire you to do something different?
Can you spell Caligula?
Calendula. 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 I love calendula. It makes me so happy. It is like the happiest little flower. I love it.
Sunny.
2 questions.
Okay.
When you're making the syrups, do you strain the herbs out of them
Yes.
afterwards?
Yeah. In the back, I gave you guys some recipes for some of these things, and I put herbal syrup. So, okay, there's 2 ways to do the syrups. Sometimes people will make a tea with it first, and then add the sugar and dissolve the sugar. Sometimes I take the cup of sugar, the water, dissolve the sugar, then I just throw the herb in there and let it sit for half an hour. And so that's another way you can do it. I did separate, because I'm mostly a handful of herbs, whatever, but don't do that with lavender. It's too much. So I did put a lavender one. I looked up the proportions. Sometimes I don't look up proportions and I just do them. So I try to find something a little more specific for you guys. So lavender, don't take the handful. That's just way too strong. But a lot of the other herbs, you could just take a handful in. But basically it's a cup of sugar, a cup of water. Let it soak, strain out the herbs, and yeah, so good. Yum, yum, yum. And then sodas, and to mix them all up, yeah.
My other question was, what's horehound?
Oh, so horehound Actually, this is a little picture of it. It's like a fuzzy little mint, and I'm actually starting some more by seed. It's kind of, I think, in the mint family, I think. I don't think it spreads as much as mint, but it's good. Like you think about the horehound cough drops or horehound drops. That's what is like is for coughs and stuff. It doesn't taste very good, but it works. Like I made a horehound cough syrup, and we've tried it, but everyone's like, "Damn, Mom, why did you make me take that? It was terrible." So add a little more honey.
Yeah, say, add honey.
A lot of more honey.
Yeah, yeah.
What about animals or deer? Do you notice that you have problems with them eating them? Or?
So it's so funny. The deer don't come into my yard. They just stay in our woods. So they have enough woods and places to be at my house that they don't come in.
We're shocked. That's true. We're shocked.
Oh, you're
Because
shocked.
in the woods,
I
with soybean fields,
Yeah,
we don't-
it could, right.
We're very surprised.
And we have a dog that runs around the property. So, you know, yeah, they get along like next to it. Every once in a while, like last year was the first time I saw signs of them up by my deck. They were up there, but they usually leave it all alone. So,
We
Yeah.
don't have a secret that keeps them away.
yeah.
Maybe the dog.
Anybody else have?
I think there's always something, if you have a variety, there's something in there they don't like. I mean,
Yeah.
they'll come, I just have enough fence to keep the little critters out, 2 foot around my
Right.
garden beds. The deer will come right up and eat everything out of the bird feeder, but they never look over at the garden.
So there you go. As long as they have something else to
Yeah,
eat.
and I think it's just, there's a hodgepodge of different stuff in there, there must be something in there they don't like.
Right, right. Keep a mix. Another good reason to keep it all mixed up.
We feed ours to the back so they stay away.
Yeah. I laugh because I was thinking about it, like, my father-in-law likes all the plants like separate with like the mulch and nothing touching, and I'm like, mix all in. I don't want to see any ground. So I like, yeah, like you said, it makes it harder for other insects and things to get in there. Yeah.
I got a, first or second year I put a thyme plant in.
Ooh.
And it's been probably almost 20 years now. An ant nest built underneath it.
Oh.
And it's about this high now.
Oh my goodness.
Huge mound. And the thyme grows right out of it.
Oh my goodness.
They come back every year, so they march all around the garden. I don't think that's why I have any bug problems. I
Wow.
mean, beetles.
Yeah.
Once in a while, but no aphids or anything. They supposedly take care of all the bad aphids and stuff, and I never have any bugs, and I just figured, well, they're staying here.
Yeah. Keep it that
I
way.
left the ant nest.
I'm still at war with stink bugs, or not, I mean squash bugs. Me and the squash bugs. We're at war. I still can't get rid of them.
It's over.
The squash bugs, and I haven't, yeah. So I'm trying to clean everything out, but that's my nemesis. I'm trying all the things for the squash bugs. Well, the other thing I laugh, they always say plant dill with cabbage, but the problem is that the dill comes up after really the cabbage. You know what I mean? The cabbage is an early one, and the dill comes up later, so it's not really helpful. You gotta find other things for dill, or cabbage, unless you do the fall one. But
Your squash bugs, those are the ones that,
the vine borers, they get in the.
I always get these ones that like, I don't know if they're mating or what, but they're like stuck back to back.
Oh
They
no.
look like stink bugs, kind of.
Yeah, well, it might be the squash bugs. They lay those little dots on the back of your squash plants, and they're all like perfectly lined up. And then they all hatch, and you have like tiny little baby ones all over the place, and then you know you're in trouble. And I'm over there like squashing them all. And then they get the vine borer that gets inside, and they lay that egg thing in there, and it's a mess. Anyway. Something else somebody said, I forget. Anyway, any other questions? Do we help you with any ideas, or yeah?
Do you happen to sell any of the tinctures that you make?
I don't, because I'm messing with them myself and just figuring out, and I think it's hard because I do the folk method. So if you're gonna sell them, a lot of times they do the formulated way so that you can guarantee that every batch is gonna have the same strength. When you're doing a folk method, you're not guaranteeing that every batch is gonna have the same strength, potency, that's the word I'm looking for. So that would be a hard way to sell it. So that's why I just kind of do it myself, see how it works. And then every body is different too. So what works for me might not work for you, and you kind of play with things. That's the fun thing with herbs. But then it takes some time. It really takes some time to figure out too. But yeah.
So for garden beds, we have like partial sun in the back. What are some good flowering herbs that I could plant hopefully perennials for beauty and just to kind of have them. Like what are some good ones that don't go crazy that are just
So herbs or flowers?
flowers, I guess. Yeah.
For part sun, there's a lot. I mean, you could do purple, the echinacea. They do like full sun, but they will take a little bit of shade.
It's pretty sunny.
Yeah. Good grief, we could be here for a long time. I'm like,
Just a couple.
yeah, those are an annual though. She was,
Spread all over.
but they will reseed themselves. I had a whole long section all the way down, and I just sprinkled those seeds around.
They're really easy to see coming up and you can move them anywhere you want.
Yeah.
What about the calendula?
Yeah, calendula, that will take a little bit of shade too. Oh, and then, I'm sorry, back to cilantro. So the one thing I do too is grow it with your pepper plants so that they both mulch the pepper plants and the pepper plants grow and shade the cilantro. That'll help you get your cilantro growing a little bit longer. So my point, I think I started that a long time ago, is keep your cilantro, grow them somewhere they'd be shaded. Because I'm always trying to time that cilantro to come in the same time as my tomatoes for my salsa. It's always tricky because they always kind of seed up. What else? Good grief. Like a geranium, a purple geranium, daisies would even take a little bit of shade. The yarrow, the campanella.
Really good too, yeah.
Campanella. I mean, just go to your garden center and just kind of read all the tags and say which flowers do you like. I mean, hydrangeas. Yeah. They'll take some shade too.
The ones that you're naming that you can use in these things.
Well, no. Yarrow you can, yes. Calendula, yes. Geraniums. Ladies' mantle is also another fun one. Or a bee balm is what you probably like a bee balm.
The
I know.
mints will take a little bit too.
Yeah, but mint will take over.
Yeah, I have a pot with the mint.
Yeah.
Is it going to puff every year? Am I
Yes.
supposed to bring it in? What am I supposed to do with it?
I leave it outside. I just put leaves over top of it. Now I've had a mint. I get those, like I go to yard sales and garage sales and buy those big metal tubs that have holes in them. So that, like, I want the ones that have holes. And they're like, it's rusted. I'm like, perfect. And then I put the mint in it, and then all of a sudden the mint is hopping out, and I'm like, I don't have any mint in here. It all jumped out. So I tried.
My sister gave me some for my pond one year. She's like, just throw this in and it'll grow good in the pond. I'm talking about a pond, just like, and yeah, now it's everywhere. Just look out. It keeps going.
I did that with the pineapple sage,
Oh.
or the pineapple basil, I mean.
Oh,
I planted it around the pond. It goes down into the pond in big long runners and all over the place. But it smells good. When you tromp on it or pick it or pull it out, it smells good and it comes right back. So you just rip it out when it gets too much.
Yeah. Wow. It was super fun, and I hope that we inspired you to start something new, maybe something we said, and it was fun to bounce off different ideas from you guys, and that we can keep going.
Just a question. If you were new, what would you do for like 5 things you would plant for?
So what do you want to use it for first?
Probably cooking. More so cooking, probably.
Okay, basil. I have to have basil. I love oregano. Parsley, probably. Rosemary. Thyme. You're only going to limit me to 5.
Well, I didn't want to be here all night.
Yeah.
I mean, whatever you would do, even flowers. Or
Right. I mean, for like cooking like rosemary, you can use rosemary, thyme, basil, sage is lovely for cooking. And that one, and actually I like sage because it gives those really pretty purple flowers in the spring. They're so pretty. And the thing is, you can use those for like flower bouquets. I totally cut the sage flowers and put them in flower arrangements. So that's the other fun thing. And oregano flowers, you can do the same thing. I've dried bee balm, and you can make fun little arrangements and just stick them in things. So you can make fun flower arrangements, dried or fresh, with herbs too.
What kind of sage do you use for smudging sage? Do you know what kind?
I think you just use the common sage. Yeah, I only did it one time because it's supposed to purify your house after. So I think it was after that COVID was going through, just kind of did the sage burn. But I only did it once or twice.
A specific variety for
I think you can just use the common sage. Yeah.
For smudging, is that what she said?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Should burn it.
Common or white?
Or white.
Mhm.
Yeah, usually white.
Yeah. All right.
So, sage is a perennial, like it'll, I know it's perennial, but it's a perennial in this area?
Mhm.
So I can keep it outside, because I get it in pots, so I just brought it inside.
Yeah, it gets really woody after a while,
Yeah.
but I just trim it back and it comes back. Like it'll get some new, I try not to trim it too much.
Okay.
It's that fine balance between trimming it enough to make it bush back and not too much that will kill it. But I have some pretty woody sage, but it keeps coming back. Then I just kind of take little pieces and start new ones.
And then you can start burning it and cleansing your own.
Yeah.
And rosemary's the same way?
Rosemary has to come inside.
Okay.
Yeah, rosemary does not stay perennial here in Ohio. It has to come inside. It will die.
That's one I haven't done.
Yes. It will die. A hard death.
Even the mild winters where
And basil's really finicky. It doesn't like below 50. I mean, once it's 50, your basil's done. So, pick it early. Get it while it's good.
early and often.
Early and often. I know. All right. Well, yeah, I hope it was inspired you guys to go out there and grow and have fun and keep smelling the herbs. So, yeah, it was fun. So.